Hi there, welcome back to Business 101, Introduction to Business. And in this video, continuing our series in marketing in Module 10, content from the textbook, we are looking at the topic of market segmentation. Market segmentation, a way to really narrow down and focus on exactly who are your users and how do you shape your messaging to reach a particular type of buyer. So a couple of concepts here, and that is the first, having a target market, which we define in the textbook as a group of people who have similar wants and needs and can be expected to show interest in the same products. Obviously, when you talk about large people groups like an entire market, it helps to really focus on exactly what type of folks in the market you're really trying to position and target your product or service for. And in that spirit, you see there the concept on the right, market segmentation, the process of dividing a market into categories of customer types or segments. Having distinct market segments helps you really design and focus your marketing messaging to reach a particular type of customer. Along those lines, we really talk about the concept of product positioning. After you've determined the segment that you're targeting, the process of fixing, adapting, and communicating the nature of a product. And of course, this presumes you will frame your message and adapt your message to specifically target what you believe to be the wants and needs in a particular market segment. Now, how can you identify specific market segments? Well, one way is simply by geography. You can see there geographic variables, geographic units that may be considered in developing a segmentation strategy. And therefore, geographic segmentation, geographic units from countries to neighborhoods that may be considered in identifying different market segments in a segmentation strategy. And we should be very aware of that just here in the United States, that there are significant differences between, geographically, markets on the West Coast versus markets on the East Coast, markets in the Midwest versus markets in our southern United States, as well as vast significant differences between urban consumers and rural consumers. All these kinds of things are several different ways of understanding how we might focus on just specific segments and then adapt our messaging, our marketing efforts to more closely meet and tailored to those geographic areas. Another way to identify specific market segments is by demographics. You see there demographic variables defined as characteristics of populations that may be considered in developing a segmentation strategy. And therefore, demographic segmentation, a segmentation strategy that uses demographic characteristics to identify different market segments. Well, a question arises, what kinds of characteristics of populations might you use to categorize and bin particular different segments? Here you have a table from the textbook, and of course you see in the left-hand column various ways that you might identify specific segments, perhaps by age group, perhaps by level of education, perhaps where in the family life cycle you believe they may be. And you can see there some of the different segments identified there in the right-hand column. It could be by family size or income, or by nationality, by race, religion, gender. They're all different sorts of ways you might be able to categorize different types of customers and consumers. This then examples of demographic segmentation. When you combine those two ideas, you end up with what we typically call geo-demographic variables. And you can see there the textbook definition, the combination of geographic and demographic traits used to develop a segmentation strategy. And you put those things together, you may be thinking of perhaps baby boomers on the East Coast, or married with large families in rural Midwest areas, examples of the combination of geographic and demographic variables. Furthermore, you could identify market segments based on psychographic variables. You can see there that's defined as consumer characteristics such as lifestyles, opinions, interests, and attitudes that might be considered in developing a segmentation strategy. And therefore, of course, psychographic segmentation is a strategy that uses these different characteristics to bin and categorize and focus on particular segments. Perhaps folks who have a particular political bent, or folks who are interested in particular types of hobbies and pastimes. Perhaps folks who are golfers, or folks who like to go to baseball games, and those kinds of things. All of these are ways to target your marketing towards particular types of consumers who have certain elements in common, or certain interests in common, certain values or beliefs that you believe would make them more apt candidates to be consumers of your product. There are behavioral variables as well, displayed as a group of consumers that are used in developing a segmentation strategy. This then, various different ways that you can think of populations of consumers as willing targets for your marketing campaigns and your marketing messaging. Remember, every time you develop a marketing message, you are spending resources, not the least of which is opportunity cost on top of financial resources and time, and therefore it really does make it more effective in your marketing to first do the hard work of deciding who are willing candidates to consume your product or service, and focusing your marketing based on intelligent segmentation. Hope that works. We'll see you in the next lecture.